Coming into the Champions League, there was a bit of hesitancy from it going from a group stage format to a league stage format, and Mbappe joining Real Madrid. They won the previous Champions League, so the best player in the world joining the best team in the world, there was a sense of hopelessness. Nobody could have expected the entertainment we got. Here is an overview of this year's Champions League. My bad, wrong song. That's on me, y'all. How could one ever mistaken the two songs?
Oh, how confusing.
Before getting started, quickly, I'ma go ahead and let this guy in a bathtub explain the new Champions League format.
The group stages have become a league phase, with all the teams in one big table. Teams will play 8 different opponents in the league phase that were drawn from 4 seeding pots. Each team was drawn to play 2 opponents from each of the pots, one at home and one away. The place where you want to be is in the top 8. The teams that finish in those spots will automatically qualify for the knockout rounds. However, if Liverpool, or any other team for that matter, doesn't finish in the top 8, there is still a shot at redemption. 9th to 16th in the final table will play 17th to 24th in 2-legged playoffs for the remaining spots in the round of 16. And 25th or lower are exactly that. Finished and out of Europe entirely. After the playoff rounds, the top 8 teams from the league phase will face the playoff winners in the round of 16. From that point on, it's still 2-legged knockout football all the way to Munich.
Now that you're caught up, let's get started. The first game under the new regime was Young Boys versus Aston Villa. It's what you expected. The most notable games that happened in the first week was Bayern putting up 9 goals versus GNK, Liverpool getting their first Champions League win under Slot beating AC Milan, and Barcelona getting upset by Monaco. Here's how the standings look after the first week. Match day 2 saw Arsenal beating PSG without their star midfielder. If they were able to beat them without Odegaard, imagine if he was actually in the lineup. No telling the damage that they'll do. Benfica would upset Atletico Madrid, putting up 4 to their 0. That wouldn't be the only upset. Lille would upset Real Madrid. Tough day to be a Madrid fan. Aston Villa would only need 1 goal to beat Bayern, and what a goal it was. What a striker Duran is, man. He's got a bright future ahead of himself. Hopefully he doesn't sell his soul to, I don't know, Saudi Arabia? Dortmund went up against Real Madrid to get their lick back. They would fail, even though they were up 2 goals for a vast majority of the game. You know what they say, 90 minutes in the Bernabeu is a very long time. A team that did get their lick back was Barcelona beating Bayern. Flick healing trauma that he caused, you love to see it. Nothing else of note that happened besides Monaco putting up 5 goals. First beating Barcelona, now this? They are looking like a dark horse in this competition. Lille continuing their win streak against Madrid teams, beating Atletico. Another team to keep an eye on, Man City. They've looked dominant the past 2 games, scoring 9 goals in total. I mean, just look at this goal. Ridiculous. It seems like nothing can stop them, even losing Rodri, a top 3 Ballon d'Or candidate. Only one of the top 5 major league winners left that week with a win. Madrid got upset by AC Milan. Liverpool put a pounding to Leverkusen with the help of a hat-trick from Diaz. Man City just look helpless out there losing to Sporting. Take it on the chin, Man City. Remember, Emerim is going to Man United. You can always get your lick back against them. They're a poverty club. PSG lost to Atletico Madrid with the heroics of the super sub Correa. PSG should really be in the market for a new keep to replace that terrorist that they have. How did you not save that? The only winner of the top 5 leagues to leave out with a win was Inter, beating Arsenal. Also, Club Brugge upset Aston Villa. Hopefully Aston Villa gets a chance to get their lick back. Leverkusen bounced back, putting up 5 goals against RB Salzburg. Atletico put up 6 goals against Sparta. Man City drew with Feyenoord after collapsing late. That's the game we got this picture of Pep going through it. PSG continued to struggle, losing to Bayern. They are truly missing Mbappe, man. Arsenal will show Man City how it's done, beating the brakes off of Sporting. Atalanta putting up 6 goals against leakionn boy. They are a club that punched their ticket into the Champions League by handing Leverkusen their only loss last year in the Europa League final, where Lookman scored a hat-trick. They've looked good all year, and it looks like they have a chance of winning the Serie A. Liverpool would heal past demons, beating Real Madrid. This was when people really started having that uncomfortable conversation. Missing a penalty, looking so defeated, and Connor Bradley doing this to him. Here's how the standings look at the half. PSG? What are you doing down? Real Madrid? What's going on? We got a strong candidate for goal of the year, Olise looking like prime Messi, and Man City continuing their downfall. There was an amazing goal that happened in that game as well. Leverkusen would be in turn with a 90-minute goal. Aston Villa would win on a late goal as well. Dortmund would put up a fight against Barcelona, but it wouldn't be enough. I wonder what two legs between these two clubs would look like. We got a classic of a game between Benfica and Barcelona. There were goals, penalties, goalie errors, a red card, and a comeback. It had it all. Also, whatever this is, Rafinha would score the winner in stoppage time, finishing off a counterattack. I can't see a game in this Champions League being better than that one. Oh, I can't forget to mention, PSG won against a respectable team finally, and I'm not gonna lie, that's a bit of a stretch. They scored 4 straight after going down 2. Feyenoord would upset Bayern, beating them by 3 goals. From going toe-to-toe with Barca to losing to Bologna. A tale of 2 clubs. Dortmund having such a disappointing season, Bologna winning their first major trophy, ending a 51-year drought. A game where we saw both teams getting a red card, saw Atletico Madrid winning off the heroics of Alvarez. Shout out to the 19, man. Liverpool finally got their first loss of the tournament, losing to PSV. Dembele just scoring for fun, putting up a hat-trick against Stuttgart. We also got a strong contender for assist of the year, and Man City finally getting a win during this rough stretch that they have. The same team that beat Bayern saw Lille scoring 6 goals against them. A game where we almost saw someone get a hat-trick of own goals. To cap off their awful Champions League run, Leipzig would lose to SK. Here is the final standings going into the knockout stage. If you take a good look, you'll see Celtic and Brest.
Big story right now, French football, and as we all know on this show, we all love a bit of Brest. So, we move on.
Finishing higher than Manchester City. And Aston Villa and Lille finishing in the top 8. Who would have seen that coming? AC Milan would continue their disappointing season, losing to Feyenoord. Well, at least they won a trophy. Something most can't say they did. Club Brugge would beat a team that is contending for the Serie A title. He ain't had to say all that about Lookman though. Dortmund would handle Sporting, who haven't been the same since their manager left. PSG gave them a bad case of the beats, beating them 10-0 on aggregate. A quick moment of silence for the end of Brest jokes.
Do you think Brest could get exposed tonight?
I hope so.
What do you reckon,
That
Mikey?
was hard.
Do you think Barcelona could come a bit quickly for Brest tonight?
Whoa, I think it might have crossed the line.
Another Dutch league team would beat a struggling Serie A side. PSV not only scored the winner in extra time, they also gave us one of the coldest picks you'll ever see. Man City versus Real Madrid. In recent years, they have a track record of producing some great games. Mbappe would announce to the national stage that he is back, advancing Real Madrid to the... Their first matchup was against Atletico Madrid. So many memorable moments that have happened between these two clubs, all of them favoring Real Madrid in this competition. This matchup would be no different. Real Madrid winning in penalties. And since we're talking about penalties, this is the guy y'all picked over Rodri? The way Atletico lost, man, it was something. When Alvarez took his penalty, he slipped, and in the midst of that, he hit the ball twice, leading to a cancellation of his penalty. And Rudiger, somehow, some way, this went in. There's a reason why they're called the Jinx ones. Before moving on, once again, shout out to the 19. What a goal. Arsenal would put up 7 goals against PSV. They would win 9-3 on aggregate. Bayern would beat Leverkusen after a vast majority of analysts expected Leverkusen to be the winners. Aston Villa would get it back in blood, beating Club Brugge in their rematch. Lille's Cinderella story would come to an end, losing to Dortmund. This goal was amazing to watch live. We would not have a repeat of the their first matchup with Barcelona beating Benfica. Inter would advance, beating Feyenoord. Liverpool versus PSG. There was a misread card and an amazing goal called back because of offsides. In the first leg, Liverpool looked like a shell of themselves. PSG was the clear-cut better team, but when it comes to this sport, that doesn't matter. Liverpool would complete the smash and dash with Elliott scoring the winner. You guys see what I mean? Alisson, who was fighting for his life this whole game, would never. In the second leg, Liverpool played a bit better, but it just seemed like PSG thunderstruck their finishing ability to them. Cause while Liverpool was missing their chances, PSG would score to tie things up. And Donnarumma hanging with Alisson. Maybe I was a bit harsh calling him a terrorist. The game would end up going to penalties, and I think I speak for all of us when I say when we saw Nunez and Curtis walk up there, the game was lost. PSG would win in penalties. From potentially getting a treble to being out of the FA Cup, losing to a team that relegated from the English second division, and now being out of the Champions League. Well, at least they still got a shot at the double. Salah, who was building up a strong case for the Ballon d'Or, saw it get crushed after Mendes pocketed him in both legs. All I gotta say is my goat Yamal could never get pocketed by a scrub that plays in the Farmers League. Are you kidding me? Before the matchup between Real Madrid versus Arsenal, news would break that Saka would be fit for the match. His return would be felt because he's the reason why we got to see these two beauts of free kicks. Rice became the 5th player in Champions League history to score 2 direct free kicks in one game. Arsenal would dominate in the first leg, winning 3-0.
I'd like to ask you about the most repeated word in the changing room during these days.
Remontada.
Remontada? More like Cayeto Moreto. Madrid would finally score, but it would just be more of the same. What was Saliba doing here, by the way? Even when there was a chance of the momentum shifting after Courtois saved a penalty, Arsenal kept their foot on their neck, Saka still ending up on the score sheet. It got so bad for Real Madrid, Martinelli even looked Brazilian. Arsenal would shock the world, beating Real Madrid 5-1 on aggregate. In their first leg, Barcelona would absolutely dominate Dortmund, with their front 3 scoring all 4 of the goals. In the second leg though, Dortmund would be the one to score 4 goals. Sadly, one of them was an own goal. Dortmund would hand Barca their first loss of the new year. It wouldn't be enough, Barca would still advance. Guirassy would bag a hat trick, securing the most goals scored by a Dortmund player in a Champions League run. The first leg between Bayern versus Inter would go down to the wire. This early missed opportunity by Kane would prove crucial. Inter would score first, scoring this thing of beauty. Muller would come to the rescue, getting subbed on and scoring the tying goal. Sadly, his heroics would be for naught. Frattesi scoring the clutchest goal of his career 3 minutes later. In the second leg, Kane would redeem himself, scoring this goal. From then on, they would just trade scoring goals from corners. Inter would win 4-3 on aggregate. Moving on to the last matchup, PSG versus Aston Villa. PSG would score some phenomenal goals in the first leg, winning 3-1. With that win, they've won more games against Premier League teams than Southampton. It seemed like more of the same in the second leg, PSG scoring the first 2 goals of the game, until Aston Villa woke up and mounted a comeback. McGinn would score this goal, and Rashford would look like his former self. Donnarumma would be the one to protect PSG's aggregate lead. Just like Barcelona, they would lose their second leg but would win 4-5 on aggregate. PSG versus Arsenal, 2 teams known for bottling. One of them has the chance to change that narrative. And Inter versus Barcelona, an unstoppable force versus an unmovable object. Who will come out on top? PSG and Arsenal would play first, with PSG scoring early. That would be the only goal of the game. Well, the only legal goal of the game. Their promising talent, Skelly was looking like prime Yaya Toure out there. Inter versus Barcelona, a goal was scored not even a minute into the game. We got a wingback scoring like Ronaldo on a corner. Yamal would score not even 3 minutes after doing what he does, just producing magic. Pedri would get the hockey assist on the tying score. In the second half, Dufry would score another goal from another corner. Rafinha would respond by scoring this banger. If it wasn't for Mkhitaryan's toenail, Inter Milan could have gone into the second leg up. In the second leg, Arsenal would come out guns blazing. They would do everything besides scoring a goal. PSG, on the other hand, would score 2 goals like this volley to extend their aggregate lead. Arsenal would finally get past Donnarumma, but it would be too little too late. PSG, for the second time in their club's history, will be going to the Champions League final. Arsenal might have taken 2 L's, but at least they came out victorious in the Battle of the Bottler, this miss being the icing on the cake. Another trophyless season. Well, for the men's side. The women, on the other hand, have been picking up the slack, destroying Barca's hopes of a three-peat. And since we're talking about Barca, their second leg matchup against Inter, it can't get better than what we saw in the first leg. Absolute cinema. That was one of the greatest ties we have ever seen in Champions League history. A wingback terrorizing the wing, getting 5 goal contributions. A 17-year-old who, instead of being in an Algebra 2 class, is making the argument for being the best player in the world. Getting double teamed, sometimes triple teamed by people that are pushing the retirement home. What a setting to score your first Champions League goal. A well-deserved moment for a guy that went through a lot. And a goalie that was playing out of his skin. That only cost in turn a paper airplane and a bag of Lay's. That game got me amped. I can't wait for the experience versus youth. Everybody thought that they were evenly matched. And boy, were we wrong. PSG are your winners of the new Champions League format. Not only winning their first ever Champions League, but becoming the first French club to achieve the treble. The action Donnarumma was getting up until this point, I'm glad he was able to get a breather. In this game, PSG got 2 of the top 5 youngest players to score in a Champions League final. Just pure domination. No team has won by 5 goals in a Champions League final. And honestly, it could have been way worse, especially if Barcola finished this chance off where he had a cherry touching earth. If Ronaldo didn't have those 2 mistakes, things would have looked a lot different. I know Mbappe is somewhere punching the air right now. He left a club that gave him everything he wanted for trophies, just for Harry Kane, the Spurs, and Crystal Palace to lift more major trophies than him. And speaking about being trophyless, Inter, man. You guys were 4 games away from a treble. If your friends was any Inter fans, I hope you checked on them. Shout out Luis Enrique for winning the Champions League. Going through what he went through, I wouldn't be able to get out of bed, but this man was able to lead such a magical run. If you saw him changing his shirt in the midst of their celebration, he was changing into a shirt that honored his daughter. And also shout out PSG fans for this beautiful Tifu. Here are the top scorers of the competition. Here are the top playmakers, clean sheets, and player of the matches. Young Player of the Season, Player of the Season, and Team of the Season. Sorry about the audio. I don't know why it's like that towards the end of this video, but I will be attending the Inter Miami and PSG game as of the uploading of this video. Let me know if you want another one of these videos for the Club World Cup.